Start?
Whenever you go.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Odalys. I'm going to talk about something serious. It's about corporal punishment. I'm going to claim the fact that corporal punishment hurts children mentally and encourages bad behavior. So, corporal punishment, like you guys all know, is used as discipline for children. To hurt them in a physical way, so they could learn a lesson. But physical punishment hurts children mentally, and it causes more problems than solving them. So these problems, which I'm going to talk about today, include making children be distant from their parents. It includes anti-socialism, includes aggression and depression, and it also includes encouragement of bad behavior and low academic scores. So first, corporal punishment makes children distant from their parents. And from a report called Hitting Kids, American Parenting and Physical Punishment, Cuddy Emily said, children whose parents hit them regularly may also develop more distant parent-child relationship later on. So what children will do when they get physical punishment, they'll avoid their parents. And I'm like, why? Because the mental image of getting hurt from the person they love and trust is scary. It scares them. And so this causes problems because, who do you usually go to talk about your problems, to talk about emotion? It's to your parents, and to feel love is from them. So they just often feel lonely, and this causes also for them to be anti-socialism, because if you can't go to your parents, then who can you go to? So this goes to my second point. Corporal punishment makes children antisocial. And from another article called The Case Against Spanking, Smith Brendan had mentioned a meta-analysis, and he said, in a meta-analysis of 26 studies, Lazaro and a colleague found that an approach they described as conditional spanking led to greater reduction in child defiance and antisocial behavior. So usually kids will be antisocial at school, they won't want to talk to anyone, they'll try and avoid anyone as much as possible, and this causes, like I said before, loneliness, and this causes depression, which takes me to my third point. Corporal punishment causes children to be more depressed and aggressive. So children, when they get physical punishment, they get lower self-esteem. They have lower self-esteem. And then they don't love themselves because they feel like they're a bad person, because that's the way they were taught. They think that all they do is something bad, and this causes them to have lower self-esteem. And I mentioned at this point they don't really care about themselves, they don't care about others, so it causes them to be aggressive for either themselves or other people. So they'll either hurt themselves or hurt others, and this takes me to my next claim. Corporal punishment encourages bad behavior. So they'll often have a temper, and they'll push someone to get whatever they want, or they'll cry and whine. We've seen children at stores cry more when they get a candy taken from their hand, right? Or we were once those children, so yeah. And then once they get spanked, they'll cry even more, because now they have an actual reason to cry for. And so this often helps them learn to push others as well, to get a candy from someone else's hand. And now that they learned the way to steal, they now focus on stealing, and instead of focusing on school or something important, then they focus on these bad stuff. And so this takes me to my next claim. Corporal punishment causes low student academic scores. So they'll lose focus at school, and then they'll want, okay, I have a quote, I'm sorry, that I should have said. It's by Kibuka Na from an article called Corporal Punishment Kills Students' Interest in Education. So it's in a study carried out in 2011 in Pakistan. It's on the impact of corporal punishment on students' academic career. Researchers found out that corporal punishment and severe punishment impedes the class participation, decreases the attendance, and increases the student dropout. So this is why corporal punishment is really bad. There's many other ways to punish a child, like timeout or talking to them, but corporal punishment is not one of them. It causes distance between child and parent. It causes them to be antisocial, depressed and aggressive, and encourages bad behavior, as well as to causing low academic scores. And that, thank you.
All right, well, the proposition's clearly identified, although it's got multiple parts to it, so I think that's a little bit of a problem. The contents are previewed, although it seems like you've got 7 or 8 things that you start with, and then you narrow it down to 5. In the body of the speech, there are 5 specific points that you're talking about, so it needs to be cleaned up there in the introduction. I think you might want to tell us what the context is for corporal punishment. Are we talking about parents spanking their kids? Are we talking about teachers smacking their kids with rulers? I don't know what they're doing in Pakistan for corporal punishment. I think you need to kind of give us a little bit more context on some of the information that you're presenting. The secondary points, when you get to the body of the speech, you signpost them pretty clearly. They're phrased as claims, so that's good. It's relatively easy to follow as a consequence. At most, you have a single piece of evidence for each for the supporting points, but there were 2 or 3 points where you didn't have any evidence for it. You just had an explanation about what you thought was true. It might be based on something that you read, but without the citation, it really just relies on our perception of your ethos and whether or not you got it right. One of the things I think is a little bit problematic is sometimes the information just gives us a theory without necessarily demonstrating its truth. We have to rely on the conclusion of somebody who's looked at some meta-analysis and they've decided what that means without providing any statistics, without giving us an example, without telling us how the research was done in the first place. So I think that's a little bit problematic, that the information seems more abstract than it ought to. Like I said, on a couple of points, I think the 3rd and 4th points, I didn't hear any evidence at all. I was a little bit confused. There was one point where you were you cited a quote, and it actually sounded like you were going in the opposite direction of what you were saying. It said that corporal punishment gains compliance and it reduces childhood defiance. And I thought, that seems to be the opposite of the point that you're making. It might simply be that the way you read the quote, there was something that was missing. I'm not sure why it came across that way. I'm going to have to watch it again, and you should watch it too, because maybe you'll be able to detect what I'm talking about. Like I said, I thought you did a pretty good job speaking to the audience, but you need a little bit more information on some of your points. All right, thank you. I keep remembering things all of a sudden. Phones off, computers closed, all that kind of stuff, because that's where your attention should be. And I'm not ADD, but I tell you what, if I hear noises in the background, I'm going to turn around and go, what's going on back there? And you don't want me to be distracted either. Okay? Thank you all very much. Daniel, you're going to be our next speaker, please. Sure, you want to ask a question? Sure.
So this is what I'm working on. This is the one who's gonna come up and
Yes,
say.
yes.
So what should I fill, like this one?
This is your name. You give this to me when you speak. This is a separate assignment. When Gilbert gives his presentation, you're going to write a one-page paper on it. It says, you'll probably be assigned a speaker that's not the same as the person whose speech you're supposed to refute in 2 weeks. If it is the same person, that's a mere coincidence. It should not affect this particular task. And then there are some more directions here.
So this is for the person.
That's a separate assignment.
This is for that.
No, this is for you when you speak.
So what am I gonna do when he speaks?
You're going to take notes because this is the speech that you're going to refute in 2 weeks. That's for the refutation. I'm sorry if I sound short. The older I get, the crankier I get some nights. I'm sorry about that. Daniel, you are up. Hey, Daniel.